Welcome to Creations with X. Today I am going to be teaching you how to knit. So, grab your needles and grab your yarn and follow along with me and I'll show you what to do. So, take your yarn, you're going to want to make a slip knot. You're going to want to kind of loop your yarn like this so it kind of has like the strands are twisting around each other, and you're going to take the yarn that comes from the working yarn coming from the ball, and you're going to want to put it through the loop just like so. Then you're going to want to make it tight. So just kind of tug on the loop, make that knot a bit tighter. And just remember to leave some tail. That way you'll be able to weave the ends in after you finish. So I'd say that's about good. General recommendation is around 6 inches. Could be more or less if you want. So we're just going to do a basic cast on, so it doesn't matter how many stitches, and this is just a basic knit cast on. I would recommend making your stitches a bit loose so it's easier to get your needle in. Also, in my years of knitting experience, I found out that just doing this is basically the same as this, just with less steps. Like, it gets the same result. It's just a bit easier. So, now that I have my stitches, I'm going to take the needle and put it in my left hand and grab my other needle. Now, I am what is known as a continental knitter. So I use my left hand to hold the yarn and the needle. So there are different types if you find that this way doesn't work for you. There's also English knitting, and I'm sure a couple others that you can find on YouTube. So you're going to take your needle in your right hand. You can hold it like this, or you can hold it like this. This is the pencil grip, and this is the knife. I usually use the knife grip. You stick the needle into the stitch to the back, hook the yarn, and pull through the loop. And then you're going to want to pull that loop off of your knitting needle like that, the first knitting needle. Then you're going to want to do it again. The cast-on row is also one of the most difficult knitting rows to work into. The first row is always the most difficult, I like to say, but once you get past that, it's pretty easy. So if you can't get past the cast-on row, or you find the cast-on row really difficult, it's not all like that. It's just the cast-on row. That's why it's best to make it a bit loose so you can get your needle in more easily. Just want to go in. You can also kind of give it a tug like that. For pencil grip, it would look like more like this. Okay, last 2 stitches. The slip stitch is generally the easiest one to get it into, because there's already like a bit of a gap there, so to speak. And you just see, first row. Then you're going to switch hands. Switch the needles in your hands. And now, this is where the knitting gets much easier. As you can see, you can go much faster when you don't have, because the stitches are kind of already pre-established. So you can just go much faster when you're knitting. See, much easier. It's the second row. Switch hands. I'll do the third row a bit more slowly so you can see what I'm doing better. So you're going to want to insert into the back of the stitch, not the front. That's purl. That's a different, it's not really a, like that. Then you'd have to do some sort of complicated convoluting thing. So, back of the stitch. Gonna hook the yarn, pull it through the loop, and then pull that stitch off your hook. Insert, pull through, pull that loop off your hook, insert, loop, pull through, pull that stitch off your hook. So, and then you're just going to keep doing that from row to row. So this is going to form what is known as garter stitch. I don't know if you can see it. It's not, kind of looks like this. I'm going to knit a few more rows so you can get a more well-defined example. But garter stitch is just what happens when you only do the knit stitch and you do that back and forth. There's another stitch that I will do a tutorial on sometime called the purl stitch, and those are the only two stitches in knitting, unless you count the slip stitch, which is literally just moving the stitch off of the needle just from one needle to the next without knitting it, so I don't really technically consider that a stitch. Looks a bit like this. It's just slipping a stitch, and then you knit this one, and then knit that one in the next round. But I don't really consider that a true stitch, because it's just moving one from one needle to the other. So this is just there. See, looks a bit more like garter stitch now. That's what garter stitch looks like. Purl stitch is also known as stockinette stitch. And to make stockinette stitch, you would do one row of knitting, one row of purling. But they're just different ways to make your stitches. For beginners, I would also recommend not using any kinds of frilly, fuzzy yarn like chenille or just kind of a fluffy yarn, because that makes it hard to see your stitches on the needle. Like, I'm easily able to go into this stitch and see it because it's a pretty blank yarn, pretty plain yarn. So just me. But those kinds of yarns that I just described can make learning knitting a lot more difficult, because you can't see anything. So there is a better example of garter stitch. From the other side. So just make sure to use a yarn where you can easily see the stitches on your needle. And once you master this, once you get this down, you can actually, it's fairly easy to do, to just work on a simple pattern without looking at it like a scarf. Like, once you learn how to knit, really knit, you can just kind of feel for the stitches on your needle, and so you don't even have to really look at it, which is handy. Yep, that is my basic knitting tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I wish you good luck on learning how to knit.